That day, the sun shone softly over the set, surrounded by green trees and the scent of freshly watered soil in the morning. I, one of the production crew who served in the behind-the-scenes documentation section, was used to seeing various interactions between the actors on location. But somehow, every time Dylan, Wang and Bai Lu were on the same set, the atmosphere always felt different. Warm. Calm down. Full of small laughs that are difficult to explain but easy to feel. The filming of this drama has been going on for several weeks, but the chemistry between the two seems to be getting stronger day by day. Not just in front of the camera, but behind the scenes. As if the line between roles and personal feelings began to blur. And it was not a far-fetched thing. That morning, Bai Lu came first. She was wearing a long cream jacket, her hair was left loose, and her face looked radiant despite not being completely finished with makeup. I had time to shake it while setting up a small camera for documentation. Morning, Bai Lu. My greetings. Morning too. A lot of scenes today, huh? He replied with a friendly smile. His voice was light, but his eyes had time to glance towards the tent where Dylan Wang's costume was usually prepared. As if unconsciously, he was waiting for someone. Soon, there were sounds of quick steps and laughter from behind. Dylan came over, wearing a grey hoodie and black pants, his hair still a little disheveled. But that's what makes it so natural and beautiful. Sorry, I'm a little late, he said as he lowered his head slightly towards Bai Lu. Bai Lu chuckled a little. It's only 5 minutes, relax. But you definitely haven't had breakfast, right? Dylan pretended to be surprised. How do you know? It's already visible from your face, Bai Lu replied, this time with a small smile that was hard to hide. I, who was not far from them, could only hold back a smile while pretending to be busy checking the camera. Simple moments like these, which may seem ordinary to them, are precisely the most interesting part of every day on location. When the shooting process began, both of them were completely professional. In a scene that required them to stare at each other, the atmosphere around was instantly silent. There was no laughter, no other sounds, only a look that felt sincere. The camera captured everything beautifully. However, once the director shouted, "Cut," everything is liquid again. Wow, I almost forgot the dialogue because you were staring too seriously, Bai Lu said as she patted Dylan's shoulder lightly. Dylan laughed crisply. You should be thanking me. It's part of my act. Acting. Bai Lu raised her eyebrows seductively. Are you sure it's just acting? The whole crew laughed. The atmosphere that had been tense turned into full of warmth. I had time to film the moment. Bai Lu smiling while looking down, Dylan trying to hide his flushed face. The time of day rest comes. I and the documentation team would usually walk around the set, recording the performers' casual activities. In the corner of the small garden, I saw something that made me stop for a moment. Dylan and Bai Lu sat side by side under a large umbrella, sharing a single lunchbox. There were no main cameras around them, only a few crew members passing by. But the way they share food without saying much looks so natural and intimate. Let's eat this, Dylan said, holding out a small piece of chicken with chopsticks. Bai Lu shook his head. You go ahead, that's the part you like. But I want to see you eat, Dylan replied in a joking but gentle tone. Bai Lu finally accepted, but her expression was full of small laughter and a little embarrassment. I filmed a little from a distance, not for broadcast of course, but for personal documentation of the team. Such a moment is too dear to miss. Evening was approaching, and the sky began to change color to golden orange. Filming still continues, this time for quite emotional scenes. Bai Lu had to shed tears, while Dylan held his face and whispered softly according to the script. But after the director cut the scene, Bai Lu seemed to still be dissolved in emotion. His eyes are slightly glazed. Without hesitation, Dylan held out a tissue and patted his shoulder softly. It's been great. Don't get carried away for too long, he said softly. Bai Lu nodded. Yes, but this scene is very heavy. Too real. I know. Dylan looked at him for a moment. But you did it wonderfully. The speech was simple, But from the way he stared, everyone around could feel the honesty behind those words. By evening, the crew began to clean up the tools. However, Dylan and Bai Lu were still sitting on the edge of the small stage where they had rehearsed the previous scene. I approached them to take a few more pictures. "Can you get a little behind the scenes?" I asked. "Of course," Bai Lu replied, smiling at the camera. "Don't get too close, yeah. I haven't touched up yet." Dylan laughed quietly. She always said that, even though it was beautiful from the beginning. I almost laughed out loud at that, but immediately held back because the camera was still recording. Bai Lu spontaneously patted Dylan on the shoulder with a pretended annoyed expression. "Yes, you can," he said. "But isn't it true?" Dylan looked at him seriously this time, without laughter. For a moment the atmosphere became quiet. Bai Lu blushed and lowered her head, pretending to be busy fixing her hair. After I turned off the camera, I stood a few feet away from them, pretending to check the footage. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Bai Lu speak softly to Dylan. "You know what, I'm glad to work with you again," he said in a soft voice. Dylan looked at him. "Me too. It feels easy working with you. You make the atmosphere of the set always light. Whereas you are the one who always makes everyone laugh," Bai Lu retorted, this time with a sincere little laugh. "I just want you to smile every day at this location," Dylan says, slowly but clearly. Those words may sound simple, but for me, who watched from behind the camera, it was the most honest moment of the day. No script, no director, no scenes. Only two hearts speak in their own way. It's getting late. The lights of the set began to turn off one by one. Dylan was still helping the crew wind the cables and lower the tools, while Bai Lu talked to the director. When it was all over, they walked out together. I, who was tidying up the shooting notes, had a chance to see how Dylan patted Bai Lu's shoulder gently. "Be careful on the road," he said. Bai Lu nodded. "You too. Don't forget dinner." "If you come, I'll just eat," Dylan replied with a meaningful smile. Bai Lu chuckled and shook his head, then walked towards his car. But before entering, he had time to look again at Dylan, who was still standing near the street lamp. At first glance, they waved at each other, not for long, but enough to make everyone who saw smile. On the way home, I opened the day's recording on my little laptop. Many moments are funny, warm, and spontaneous. But the one thing that stands out most is not their interactions in front of the camera, but the honesty that emanates from their working relationship behind the scenes. There is something between them, whether it is comfort, admiration, or maybe the seeds of feelings that have not yet had time to be spoken. What is clear is that every look, every laugh, and every moment of silence, they have their own story. As someone who's behind the camera, I've gotten used to seeing a lot of co-star couples pretending to be close. But Dylan, Wang, and Bai Lu were different. They do not need to try to seem sweet, because their every gesture and word already shows sincere warmth. The next day, I came back to the location earlier than usual. The sun had just risen, and the dew was still on the leaves. From a distance, I saw two figures already sitting on a chair near the set. Dylan and Bai Lu, they were chuckling while looking at the script together. I smiled to myself. It seems like it's going to be a long day again. But I know one thing for sure, as long as the two of them are on set, the atmosphere will always be warm and full of beautiful stories. Perhaps for the world, this is just a behind-the-scene moment. But to me, this is a small slice of a true sweet story. The story of two people who find comfort in the spotlight. And I, as a behind-the-scenes witness, feel lucky to be able to see how love can be present in secret, even between scenes that are not written in the script.